Shehzad Poonawalla, just very quickly to pick up from the point that was made about this budget, about budgets normally having some shadow of the election. Last time was on the eve of Delhi elections. There was a major tax break given, particularly for the lower middle classes, many of whom felt that they weren't getting enough out of budgets. Do you believe that that shadow still exists this time? Or will it be the vision statement that we are told that will dominate this budget?
First of all, good morning to both Rajdeep and Maria and the other people who have to come on a Sunday. And new tradition also in this way, that first budget from Kartavya Bhavan, from Atmanirbhar Bharat Bhavan. So now, having said that, Rajdeep, just before I come to your question, 10 seconds on something I heard before you were addressing with Sanjay ji, that why budgets are not open. Rajdeep, like me, you have studied law. We both didn't practice law, but you have studied constitution. Article 112 mandates that budget can have to be placed only before parliament, before it is put in the public domain. So it is constitutional the duty of any government that it cannot make the budget public, even if it has no issues on secrecy, because this is our parliamentary and constitutional obligation to first place it before parliament, and only then the budget can be made public. So just for your clarification, viewers' clarification also. Secondly, Rajdeep, the worst thing, the most important thing that people accuse us is कि ये मोदी को देखो, ये मोदी जी जो है ना, ये good politics को good economics बना दिए हैं. हमने GST, when we got in GST 2017, Gujarat elections were around the corner. Every political analyst said कि मत लाना GST. Modi ji was the person who said मुझे चिंता नहीं वोट की, ये मेरे देश के लिए one tax one nation लाना है. उन्होंने लाया. We suffered little bit in Gujarat elections, but despite that we have bought that reform. And today, Rajdeep, I want to give you something that will be the key word of today's budget. It will be Gita. You will say, अरे इसमें भी हिंदू मुस्लिम कर दिया पूनावाला ने. Gita means G for growth, I for infrastructure, T for technology, and A for Atmanirbhar Bharat. Highest growing large economy in the world. We have gone from 11th position. Sorry?
Interesting. It will be, Shehzad Poonawalla, I've always said that if you can come up with these acronyms all the time, you will go very far in politics, because this government likes acronyms. But we will keep that in mind. Gita is what you said.
But
Rahul Ahluwalia. Okay, just a minute. We've got limited time today. We've got limited time today. I'll give you 10 seconds more. Keep it at 10.
At least let me elaborate on my Gita. See, we are already registering highest growth. We have pushed in great capital expenditure in the last 10-11 years. Infrastructure pe boost hai. We have now made technology accessible to the public, digital delivery of services and goods. And 1 lakh crore rupees बेचते तो 1 lakh crore rupees जाता है. 85% is not being eaten up. And Atmanirbharta can be seen the manner in which our defense exports, our mobile phone exports have increased. And we are at lowest NPA, lowest inflation rates. And therefore, this gives us more room to boost the consumption, private consumption also, expenditure in infrastructure also. And despite the global headwinds, we are seeing it as an opportunity.
The finance minister will be briefing the spokespersons around 1:30, but Shehzad seems to be prepared much before that briefing that will be done by the finance minister.
One of the key, of course, aspects is for all the talking up of the economy, there are certain concerns. Private investment continues not to pick up. Rahul Ahluwalia, your founder director of Foundation for Economic Development, former Niti Aayog, should that be a concern for whatever has been done or not done in the last few years? Post-COVID, private investment has simply not picked up.
That's a great question, Rajdeep, and it's exactly what I wanted to talk about. So thank you. In fact, that's the big story of the last 5 to 6 years, right? The big concern has been private investment has not picked up. Our diagnosis is that private investment is not picking up in India because we are not globally competitive. If you think about manufacturing scale, if you look at the one big success story that India has had is Apple manufacturing iPhones in India. India is only 2% of Apple's global market. The only reason they are manufacturing iPhones in India is because they can export them to the rest of the world. We have to achieve this kind of competitiveness in every other sector. The investment not picking up is a signal that public capex and public investment in infrastructure is not the answer. So what is the answer? And I think the government is on the right track, and you've been mentioning it yourself on your show. Deregulation is the answer. Ease of doing business is the answer. A globally competitive business climate is the answer. So that's the big picture that we should be looking for from this budget. Deregulation, I just one last point I'll make is it comes in two flavors. One is you have to reduce the obstacles. The other is you have to increase the certainty and the stability. And both of these things are really more signals that you can expect from a budget. Concretely, I think tariff is the one big thing that we should expect. Tariff rationalization and tariff lowering is something that I'm really looking forward to, at least in the budget.
Okay. Rajiv Memani, President CII, good person to get on that. Private investment, just not picking up. And I'd like you to give me a good answer as to why that's happening, Rajiv.
Hi Rajdeep. No, I don't think it's accurate to say that private investment is not picking up. I think private investment may not be growing to the extent that we all want to desire. But I think private investment is picking up in the last 12 months, 18 months. Even if you look at the data for March 25, I think private investment showed good signs. I think during the first quarter of this year, it slowed down a little bit because of all the tariff-related uncertainty, but it started picking up again. So I don't think it's accurate to say that private investment is not picking up. That's first. Can it do better? Surely it can do better. I think there's much greater potential. Balance sheets are under leveraged. Economy is growing very well. So it should be picking up much more. And I think my personal view is that it will pick up more as capacity utilizations go up. And I think as we have more focus around ease of doing business, more focus around factor cost of production efficiencies in India, more focus around which are the goods and services that India really wants to focus on. Maybe a list of 7,500 goods that India wants to focus on. I think it'll get a boost further. One of the other reasons, Rajdeep, that there is a challenge also is because of the global uncertainty, and you have large manufacturing capacity that's built up in one part of the world. I think there is always the price volatility, commodity volatility that happens because of that. And also the amount of technology and investments that's gone there. I think sometimes even for private sector to take that risk and leap of faith, they would need some more, maybe that's why I said focused PLIs, focused incentives to ensure that they're able to weather the initial storm when they're looking at setting up large investment capacities in India.
Maria, you have the numbers.
Yes, so if we were to look at the private investment trends, the latest trends in India, sir, it looks like, in terms of financial year 2023-24, it was around 4.2 trillion rupees. In 2024-25, it did go up, but in 2025-26, it is around 4.89. What do you think should be done, Rajiv Memani, in this sector then, for the private sector to pick up that trend, because that's needed?
No, it is. I think it is picking up. I mean, if you go sector by sector, you can say that the numbers are picking up. As I said, the first half of this year, it was slightly slower because of what was happening in the rest of the world. But private investment is picking up. Having said that, as I said, there is always more that can be done given where Indian economy is. My first thing is, I think we need to have, as was said earlier by Rahul, I think on ease of doing business, on factor reforms, I think India needs to be more competitive. Land reforms, availability of land. It takes more time to set up plants, projects in India. And I think the government has done a lot in the last 6 to 12 months. I think we also need to communicate much more. So I think that's one area that I think we need to be doing more. And secondly, I think we need to have, we talked about the success in electronics manufacturing and others. In semiconductors, we are seeing good success. One of the reasons for that is we have a very clearly laid out incentive scheme, especially in newer areas and others, PLIs or other incentives that have been given. I think for chosen products where India wants to be, as was said in the economic survey, where we want to be, strategically well-positioned, strategically resilient or dominant, whatever the word used is. I think those products we need to identify and have a clearly laid out path in terms of technology partnerships, incentives, buying preferences, long-term glide path on customs. I think those are the areas that we need to look at, and as was again said by Rahul earlier, I think if we have customs duty rationalization that we will, at least for the raw material products and others, that will also make India competitive. I do believe that as India signs the FTAs and once these FTAs become effective, which will take, which could take 6 to 12 months depending on the FTA we're looking at. If that happens, then that will give another boost to manufacturing in India. But I do agree, Rajdeep.
Dr. Baru, you wanted to put a word in.
Be one of the central things.
Sorry, Rajiv. Yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
This is when I miss Rahul Bajaj. You said earlier about Indian business giving 11 out of 10 for every budget. The fact is
I said it a few days ago. Yes, maybe yesterday. Yes.
The fact is that private investment has not been picking up for 10 years. Forget about last quarter or the last year. For 10 years, it's been stagnant. And the government, the finance minister herself asked Indian business, why are you guys not investing? We talk about animal spirits. I wish Indian industry were more forthright in telling the government why they are not investing, rather than fudge around and say, no, it's going up a little, it will go up. Come on, there is a major problem of confidence.
Yeah, go ahead, Raju.
No, so I would say private actors are rational. If you look at capacity utilization, it's been stuck below 80%.
Exactly.
So why would people put up more capacity if your existing capacity is not utilized?
No, but isn't it partly, or at least that's the explanation given, that we live in extremely uncertain times?
No, Rajdeep,
and the geopolitical risks are such.
I'm afraid that's not the answer. The real problem is demand. Why is capacity utilization low? It's not,
No, it's not low. I think it's optimal.
No, it's not optimal. It's below 80%. Optimal, you say optimal when you hit 80%. That's when companies begin to look at future investments. It's been below 80%.
Let me bring
my take on this is it is productivity driven.
Demand is not picking up.
So productivity is making your assets sweat better.
No, but unless you get demand, unless domestic demand picks up, the government has made efforts.
Clearly the economy has been growing, right? The economy has been growing.
Why is it therefore, when the economy is growing, when your macroeconomic numbers are so solid, why is it that investors are still not putting their money where their mouth is the question?
One data point and one question. Data point is Indian companies are sitting on at least 6 lakh crores.
Yes.
Okay. The question they are asking is, what do we produce that China is not able to sell in India? Because we are not competitive against China on across the board.
But Shankar, demand is also not picking up.
That's a secondary.
That is why you gave those GST reductions.
Demand has come from more service-led industries.
Demand goes up.
I'm also joined at the moment by Varun Santosh of the Congress. I'll go to Shehzad in a moment because he wants to respond. But Varun Santosh, it's all very easy to say, that private investment has not picked up. This government has done a lot to encourage private investment over the years. They've given various incentives. We can go to the corporate tax breaks that took place a few years ago. But for some reason, private investment is reluctant to invest. Now, is the fault lie with the government or does it lie with the investors? Does it lie with private sector? You're sitting on 6 lakh crores, but you're unwilling to put your money. I come back to it where your mouth is. You'll come on our shows and say, yes, we want the animal spirits of the economy to revive, but they're not reviving.
Rajdeep, who marshals the resources
the
of the
banks
country?
also have been restructured.
So you've got all that in place. The banks have been restructured. Why is investment not picking up?
See, what is the duty of the Prime Minister? To marshal the resources of the country to make it work for India, for Team India, right? Now, why is private investment not picking up? Because 8 lakh crore of, tax cuts have been given, yet demand has not picked up. Is because it's a complete mismanagement of the economy, of the Prime Minister.
Give me the exact mismanagement of the economy. How? Give me an example.
Right. Now, let's take the economic survey. The government's own economic survey of last year said that, quoting Lowy Institute of Australia, that power gap of India is -4, which is the worst in Asia after Russia and North Korea. Which basically means, what is the power gap which Lowy Institute says? We have great economic resources, we have a great youth dividend, we have a great R&D system and tech ecosystem, yet we are not able to marshal all of this to work for Team India, which is a 140 crore people. Why? Why? Because, let's go back to Gita, right? Which Shehzad Poonawala said. Gita says, Karmanye vadika raste ma phaleshu kadachan. Do your work and let the fruits play out.
Rajdeep,
What the politics of BJP is that they only focus on the politics, the fruits of power, and not delivering it to the people.
No, these are all, you see,
How are we getting consistently
shorn of political
7%
ranking,
plus
I
growth
want
for so many
specifics.
years? Please answer that.
We've
Criticism.
got a quick response from you, Shehzad Poonawala. You see, this is the major challenge ahead of the budget.
Rajdeep,
What are you actually going to do to revive the animal
Yes.
spirits? As I said, government has made various efforts, but they are not effectively working on the ground in terms of private investment. That's the reality. CapEx is what is driving your growth. It is not what should be driving your
Rajdeep.
growth, which should be private investment.
Rajdeep, now please be fair to me and give me 30 seconds before you make your next intervention. First of all, if you see the corporate investment announcements, in H1 FY25 it was 7.9 lakh crore and now in H1 FY26 it is 14 lakh crore plus. Secondly, gross fixed capital formation is up by 7.8% in this FY, and apart from that it is up to 30% of our GDP. It used to be 27% of the GDP in 2014. If you are saying this has not happened, then let me give you specific examples what we have done. Look at the investments that have come in through the PLI scheme. Look at the fact that we have now streamlined the labor codes. Look at the fact that now we have even boosted the consumption through GST 2.0 reforms. Look at the ease of doing business. And yes, कर्म करना केवल हमारी चिंता नहीं, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट की भी है. The regulation process that we are easing from here, we are removing compliances, we are removing archaic laws. What are the states? State governments also have to do their bit. They can't do Rajniti in the studio and then
But
come and
most of
lecture
these
us.
states-
Please tell me, Rajdeep,
Shehzad,
today,
most
the
of
manner
these
in which the
states are
labour codes
governed
have
by
been
the
reformed.
BJP.
1 second, Maria, just 10 seconds. Maria, हमारे स्टेट में तो अच्छा ही हो. For instance, I'll give you the state you are sitting in, Noida, Uttar Pradesh. In that place, we have now got a very progressive labor code. In fact, it allows the women to do the night shift also. But what is the राजनीति that Kerala does? कभी बोलो ना, बंगाल क्या राजनीति बंगाल के लीडरशिप क्या राजनीति करते हैं लेबर कोड पे? Why aren't they doing the labor code reforms properly? Why aren't they following the lead that the central government is following? So reform process and regulation को enabling environment में करना is also the duty of the states. Many of the things are also dependent on the state government. Having said that, secondly, now see, I am sure Congress will have problem with Geeta, but let me give you just one example, Rajdeep. There used to be 2 mobile phone manufacturing units or assembling units in this country. Today there are 300 plus. ये किसने बनाया? ये जिन ने बनाया क्या? Is this not a reality? Is this not a reality that today India is self-sufficient in its own mobile phones requirement? First, we used to import it, because of which we used to pay import bill for electronic goods. Please, Rajdeep, tell me, toys we used to import, 70% of our toys was from China. Today, we are exporting toys up to 37%. Defense goods exports have increased to 23,000 crore.
Shehzad,
No, but Rajdeep, this is an interesting data here. If you look at it in terms of FDI for various states, it's Karnataka, which is not a BJP ruled state, which is in fact a Congress driven state. It has $5.69 billion investment. So that's what it looks like right now. Moving to Maharashtra at 5.36, Tamil Nadu 2.67. So in top 3, it is the opposition ruled states.
Except Maharashtra, which is of course BJP ruled state. No, but before we make it a political debate, one last word I'll give you and then I'll move to Chandrajit Banerjee.
No, what is the real wage growth of India? That's the data that we should focus on. 0.01% over the last 5 years. Devastating number this is. 0.01% real wage growth of Indians over the last 5 years. This is
Partly colored by the fact that 2 of those years were COVID years.
But still, over the last 3 years, right? So, COVID is far gone now. Now, why are they failing? Because they're passing the buck again now. And, sorry, Shehzad, Karnataka is leading, as Maria just pointed out. And point number 2.
Karnataka was in the top even when the BJP was in power. It's not as if Karnataka has suddenly become the number 1 state. Once the Congress, you see, this is the problem. You all cherry pick what suits you all.
So let's go back to the basics then. Who leads Team India? It's the Prime Minister's job. He's the head coach, right? And
okay,
what?
In fact,
No. So he's
Priyanka Gandhi Vadra has spoken. Let's listen into what she's saying.
Sure.
I mean, it's very predictable reaction which is coming in from various political parties already now. Go ahead. Let's play the soundbite.
बजट से क्या उम्मीद है आज आपको?
expectation from the budget? It's very. I don't have much expectation, but
जी मैम एब्स्टीन फाइल्स पे कुछ कहेंगे? बजट से क्या उम्मीद है आज आपको?
What's your expectation from the budget? It's very. I don't have much expectations, but let's see.
जी मैम एब्स्टीन फाइल्स पे कुछ कहेंगे
Let's go straight across to Chandrajit Banerjee, Director General CII, now joins us. Mr. Banerjee, we are in the midst of an interesting discussion on what many believe is the big challenge for Nirmala Sitharaman at a time of global headwinds. How do you navigate what is a difficult economic environment and spur, to use the words famously used by Manmohan Singh in 1991, revive the animal spirits of the economy? The truth of the matter is, why is it that private investment is still not keeping up with what otherwise seems to be, from an Indian perspective, strong macroeconomic numbers?
So I think this was something which I would have really talked about strongly a couple of years back, or a year back even. But private sector investments have kicked in. If you see, there are sectors like the cement, there are sectors like steel, there are sectors like renewables. Many more sectors have actually picked up. So private sector investments are kicking in. But coming to your specific question, I'd like to really focus on, this is the time that, I mean, with the global headwinds which you really talked about, India can move into the next phase of reforms strongly, and reforms which are both at the central level and much more in the state levels that needs to be done. More powers to the states who, or rather incentives, if you would wish to use that word, to those states which do reform, and which they don't. And actually the investments figures in the states are in tune with those who are able to provide a stable infrastructure, be it social infrastructure, be it other infrastructure which are required. So I would really expect that capex to continue, which will crowd in private sector investment, reforms to continue, really focus on a cost and ease of doing business. But this is an opportunity, as you talked again about global headwinds. Let's also reform. Everything cannot be manufactured here. So trade reforms. So reforms in the trade side, three-tier duties in terms of reforms, which was one very important factor, which we talked about the reforms earlier.
Mr. Banerjee,
landmark reforms took place.
Yes,
very critical.
Is highlighting an important point that the investors are sitting on around 6 lakh crores. Now, they are not ready to invest. Why do you think there is that great degree of caution or concern here?
So there are investors, both domestic and foreign, which are sitting. There is a global sort of turmoil, as we have noticed. But as we have also seen across the globe, that India still sits on a good spot. Yes, there are issues which needs to be seen with the prism of the global turbulences, for which investors might be sitting in. But there are good projects, there are good investable projects where investors are putting in their money. And the opportunity therefore lies in that there is money to be invested in. If we really create bankable projects, if we create focus on the capex which I spoke about there, and if we are able to crowd in investments through further reforms which we expect from the budget in a few minutes time, I'm sure that will
Shankar
start
has a question here. Please go ahead, Shankar.
Chandrajit, you've been a visitor to Davos and a knowledgeable person on many of the state investment summits. In your estimation, how many or what percentage of the MOUs get converted into actual investments?
See, I think, MOUs are one, but yes, you're right. I personally, and I think even states today have taken cognizance of the fact that what's more important is to be focused on what really happens on the ground and what investments come in. So because you mentioned about Davos this time, one was really looking at hopefully not more of MOUs, but more of what can happen on the ground, what type of investment opportunities and investments shall trickle in. I mean, I think the focus would have to be, and you are very right, the focus has to be on what would be the employment generated in X number of years and what would be the type of money that would be put onto the table in X number of years, there has to be finite period of time. And third, very importantly, what is it that one is offering in terms of infrastructure, just not subsidies and incentives, because sometimes that doesn't even come, the subsidies which are promised. So let's not get into that route of subsidies. Let's get into the in the route of where it can be much more stable pipeline.
I just want to understand, and do you believe that this budget, in a sense, given these global headwinds, and we've spoken about this, how adversity turns into opportunity, this becomes the opportunity to reset the way we look at tariffs. We've struck these trade deals. This is the budget where you send that signal, even without going into specifics, that is the direction we are going. You need something like that, to give business the sense that this is now our moment. You strike a FTA deal, which is going to take 6 to 12 months. We don't know till the final print is out what it will look like.
27 countries, 27 months.
Yeah, that's right. We don't know how long that will take. But what you can do today yourself is perhaps use this budget to actually do what, let's say, Chidambaram did in 97 with direct taxes, what Manmohan Singh did in 91 with trade liberalization. This is your moment to look at tariffs.
This is, Rajdeep, India's IPL moment, since we are both cricket fans. What happened to happened to Indian cricket after IPL is that we learned to play with foreigners in a domestic league. That gave us the competitive capability. The same has to be done by opening up sectors, allowing investments, dealing with FTAs.
Give me an example of the things that could be done. Any specific area where you believe this budget provides that opportunity?
Very simple. In agriculture. Agriculture has there is an opportunity to open up agriculture, to find ways to do.
Easier said than done. You've seen the political reaction, the backlash every time you mention the word. Mr. Varun Santosh's party will be doing high jumps. You see, in India, where you stand depends on where you sit. Even if he wanted to do it, he would in the opposition, he's not going to allow it.
But his party has spoken about the second green revolution for at least about 30 years
That's
now.
right. But I'm saying,
the problem with...
do you believe that this is because even when it comes to trade deals, what's the first thing, including the Prime Minister, they say we are keeping agriculture and dairying out of any negotiation. Do you believe it is possible to use this opportunity?
Amul cheese is being sold in Switzerland. So let's not sort of run down our competitive edge of Indian companies. When India's software sector was opened, it was offered to all the Infosys and TCS that they will close the option of foreign investment in that area. And Narayan Murthy and others, I think FC Kohli and others said, no, we will not close down. We will have 100%. Whoever wants to come, that is the only way we will compete. Do we close down on GCC? Now, slowly, we have opened up insurance, we have opened up telecom, we have opened up GCCs. So this is the way. So you let foreign companies come into India.
The concern is that only the bigger players...
Autos and textiles.
Okay.
So auto manufacturing, textiles, these are areas where I think India should accept more and more foreign investment.
In terms of agriculture, the concern is that only the bigger players like Amul and all will benefit. What about the small farmers?
No, but Mr. Amit Shah has been creating some 500 odd cooperatives. I don't know to what extent, whether to control the finances of the cooperatives or to promote the cooperatives in agriculture. This has to be, somebody has to determine what is happening to the cooperative sector. This is the first time in independent India that the cooperative sector, the cooperative ministry and department is divorced from the Ministry of Agriculture.
Rajdeep, yes. You spoke about 1991, right?
Yes.
About trade reform. What exactly did 1991 do? It exposed Indian industry to greater competition by reducing tariff rates from 3 digits to 2 digits, right? We once again come to the stage where unless we expose Indian industry to greater competition and stop mollycoddling them, you will not get economies of scale, you will not get competitiveness. India's biggest problem, manufacturing sector's biggest problem is lack of scale. We constantly complain about China. Unless we expand scale at home, unless you make yourself more competitive, improve labor productivity, how do you do this? By lecturing to CII and FICCI,
Can
you're
I
not
ask,
going to do it.
if Chandrajit Banerjee is still with us, if Mr. Banerjee, you're still with us, you want to... Okay, we'll try and get a CII representative of that, but Varun Santosh, if the finance minister today, and it is still an if, announces a kind of tariff rationalization or pushes for particular specific sectors, some of which have been mentioned, agriculture, textiles, automobile. Do you believe that the opposition will welcome it? Will the opposition welcome it, or will you stand, your stand will depend on where you sit? As we've seen with all governments. Prime Minister Modi had one view on GST when he was in as Gujarat Chief Minister, another view as Prime Minister, one view on a minimum support price for agriculture when in opposition, when in government. You're the same.
Rajdeep, let's focus on the outcomes, right? 11 years of announcements, what has it led to in terms of outcomes, right? That's where you measure.
No, the government has been reasonably successful on infrastructure. For example, you cannot deny there's been a massive infrastructure
Let me
push.
quote the economic survey on infrastructure.
Yes.
Right? Last year's economic survey said, infrastructure without reforms is concrete without consequence. So they've done a lot of infrastructure growth.
The cost of India has come down to below 8% of GDP.
So,
how did that happen? It used to be in double digits, well into double digits.
Economic survey of this government
You are
has said
randomly
that
picking up one sentence.
No.
Yes, not
it's not
even
that.
in
It's
the
not that.
complete picture.
See, the concrete without consequence, what is happening is a lot of capital investment is happening. For example, metros are being constructed in Nagpur, in Lucknow. How many people are using those metros? Why are they not using the metros? Right? So the problem is...
But really, the question is not about how many are using or not using. The fact is that there is a web which is being established, keeping in mind that this is perhaps the base that is being created to make it more attractive.
It is not followed up with reforms on the governance front. You know, you can't just build infrastructure.
GST reforms were reforms.
No. I'm talking about infrastructure. For example, you're talking about infrastructure, right? Now, why are metros not being used? Because the last mile connectivity is broken in our cities. What is the, for example, in Gurgaon, you have a triple engine Sarkar. What is the use of a triple engine Sarkar if you're not able to fix governance at the last
come in, Shahzad, respond to that.
Rajdeep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Rajdeep, please be charitable to me. These are the people who used to have half kilometer. Be more charitable then. This is the government of UPA which constructed half kilometer of metro line per month. We have exceeded that by 6 kilometers per month. 5 cities to now 25 cities metro connectivity is there. They oppose Mumbai Metro in the name of RA Forest, even though the carbon footprint of people traveling on the metro would be much better than the forest entire thing, and it has been clarified. And these people are now lecturing us about last mile connectivity. Anyway, then see the manner in which they get away with their lies. They spoke about outcome. Bhai, Garibi Hatao was a nara. We take out 25 crore people from Garibi and we made it into Niyat. We gave 4.5 crore people the houses, Pakka Awas. We have given 10 crore people tap water connection, 10 crore people toilet connection. We have given 10 crore people Ujjwala gas cylinder, 50 crore people Ayushman Bharat cover. What did you do except for giving the nara? You gave outlay, we gave outcome. Thirdly, Maria, see, you are quoting the data of Karnataka. Let me clarify to you, not because I am a proud Maharashtrian. Maharashtra has been number one. You should see the whole year figure of FDI. You are quoting only Q1 of financial year, and there Karnataka is slightly ahead of Maharashtra, but in the entire year Maharashtra is ahead. And also, so don't quote quarterly figure and then say that this is a whole year figure. Maharashtra is much ahead, but this is Team India spirit.
As Rajdeep was pointing out, even at that time the picture was
exactly. So yes, Maria, I know. Maria, please let me complete. That's why I'm saying that Karnataka has been number 2 right from 2018 onwards. So it's not a new achievement. It is a Team India spirit. Where was Congress Party when German Chancellor came to Bengaluru? They were receiving that Rahul Baba. And fourthly, I want to just say that now Rajdeep was talking about the reform process and all these opening up this sector, that sector. Ask Mr. Congress spokesperson, does he support Labour Code reform? Rajdeep, ask him.
Okay, let me
ask him, does he support the Labour Code reform?
As I said, we didn't want to make this a point, but a quick answer to that. The Labour Code reform, do your governments fully support it or not?
See, what we support is real wage growth, right? Are people of India having a real wage?
You gave 10% inflation.
No. Is money reaching the pockets?
If I speak to industry, they say that two great concerns are labour and land.
Right.
So when the government goes in for a Labour Code reform, do you support it or not?
See, we have made a stand clear on the labour codes is that you've increased the...
What is it?
No.
What?
You've increased it to 12 hours now, right? Which is wrong. It's
He's
supposed to be 8 hours.
prevaricating.
Now, but the main point is, you've done all these reforms. What are the outcomes?
Now,
The
let me
real
expose the
question.
One moment.
No.
In fact, a resident of
let me
Lucknow has
expose
just
the
sent
One
me a
line.
message, Varun, saying that Lucknow metros are choco-block.
See,
So that
No,
that was also a response to say that infrastructure is being created, not being used.
look at Nagpur. Look at Ahmedabad. The point is not.
Nothing has been built. It's better not to build.
You know, there are three issues.
This is not the hill to die on, I can assure you.
There were three issues.
Don't build infrastructure, it's the wrong hill to die on.
A leading global economist who tracks India, we met in Davos. He said if he had to give India a recipe for the future, he said India needs to focus on three things. One, rural productivity. Two, urban governance. And three, skilling. And he mentioned skilling very emphatically, and he gave the example of tourism. He said the number of tourists, for example, in a country like Switzerland are multiple times what come in a subcontinental size like India, and it makes a dramatic difference to the scale of the economy. Now, skilling has been one area where, just like infrastructure has been a strength of the Modi government, there have been questions over whether enough has been done for skilling.
The latest
There have been
CAG
lots
report, for example.
The CAG report points out, and look, again, this is also states also have to pull their weight. This is not just about the center. Different states are showing different levels of skilling for their, but these are the issues that need to be tackled. Now, the budget comes along. Should the vision statement say what this global economist said, that these are my three priorities for the next 10 years? Rural productivity, urban governance and skilling. I will commit myself for the next 10 years to it.
On tourism, I'll just add one thing, Rajdeep. Now, one of the reasons why India has been really lagging in tourism is there's been just lack of air connectivity to the country. Direct flights are not there. Even today, we don't have a fully functional airline which is connecting Indian cities and Indian capital to other tourist hubs across the world. So people want to have those access points.
There aren't enough hotel rooms to accommodate Indians traveling.
It's a supply side problem.
Then when I ask a hotelier about that, they say there are still far too many regulatory compliances that they've got to go
the government has to solve.
So the regulatory cholesterol, which we keep speaking about, can the budget so-called vision statement in part 2 include this?
You know, in February 2014,
yes,
I was at a FICCI National Executive Committee meeting in Ahmedabad, where the Chief Minister of that state, Mr. Narendra Modi, chose to speak for 1 hour addressing the FICCI National Executive Committee on tourism as a priority sector for the Indian economy and how he would in fact use tourism to generate employment. I was totally impressed. After his talk, I actually went up to him and complimented him. That is February 2014 in Ahmedabad. We are now in 2026. What have we done for tourism? And it's states and center. But point is, there are all these issues about connectivity, about hotels, about talent.
Now, I'm only asking this because the belief is, as Part B earlier used to be about tax, about indirect taxes, Part 2 this time is going to be a vision statement, is what we are being told as of now of the budget. Should the vision statement be very clear about what are the things that we are going to make, you know, not just catchword, not just Skill India, Stand Up India, not that. Actually, how are you going to translate these words into action, execute them with a clear roadmap? Isn't that what you want? Rather than handouts here, you know, for some scheme or the other.
Part B will be mostly about the change in the proposed customs framework and tariff.
Global opportunity.
So is this a big opportunity for that customs duty reform?
Well, you can open up your sectors. That is the only way you will sort of bring in the competition and sort of have companies come in and invest. The problem with the point that you made about agriculture, there's a simple data point, which is that nearly 50% of the workforce depends on 1/6 of the national income. Agriculture accounts for about 16% of GDP, and over 500 million people depend on that. Now, unless you change that, you will never. So we are number 4 in the size of the economy, number 140 in per capita income, because the mass is not as rich.
Another word that's going to likely to be used is defense. There's a general belief post Operation Sindoor that the government will invest more on military spending. Maria, you have the numbers.
Yes, so just look at the defense military spending vis-a-vis our neighboring countries, which have been a matter of major concern for us, particularly China and Pakistan. The China defense budget has been going up substantially. As far as India is concerned, that has been largely around a straight graph, not much of the expenditure going up, the spending on defense military capability going up. This is where the sense is that the government could announce some major spending in terms of purchasing newer capabilities, because particularly after Operation Sindoor. Another area, Rajdeep, as we have been talking about, this is with regards to GRAMG, the Manrega, which has been renamed. And can that be a point of contention between the opposition and the government? The Manrega funds released, if you look at it, in 2024, that was the highest at 105.3k crores. It did go down, not really significantly, a little to 104.3k crores. Now it seems that this is where the government could increase that number. So, Shankar, come in on particularly with regards to the defense expenditure or defense spending. Is there a sense that this could go up?
More important thing would be...
one by one. Let Shankar finish first. Yes.
More important thing would be, for a change, we are actually exporting our defense production.
That's a massive shift.
And
that's a massive shift.
Last month, Turkey had a defense exposition in Africa, selling defense equipment to all the African countries. We've had a footprint in Africa much longer than Turkey could have thought of. So why aren't we hosting defense exposition either in India or in Africa or to the other countries? We have a huge potential after the creation of the factories for small arms, for the
in
Uttar Pradesh, in the drone capacity that we are building. All of these are bulletproof vests. We have built capacities in these areas, and we should sort of present it to the world and say that this is what we have to sell. You have to market and sell your potential.
Make in India.
Yes.
No. Sorry. This is one subject where I have been working on defense. I've written papers, several papers. I work for a defense think tank. Let me tell you one thing. There is a systematic pattern that after every major war, this defense expenditure goes up. 62, 65, 71, 98, right? So when you say post-Operation Sindoor, that's a wrong way of looking at defense spending. What many of us have been demanding is a 5-year plan for defense. And what a lot of private companies today are demanding is assured purchase of whatever they produce. Now, in defense, it is a unique industry in which there's only one customer, which is the government of India. And unless the government of India tells a private company that over the next 5 years, I will buy X amount of guns or rockets or whatever, the private company will not produce. And those are the commitments the government is still not making. I can tell you from my knowledge.
True.
So therefore, you need a reform in the way in which defense spending is done, in the way in which procurement is done, in the way in which we bring in private sector into defense manufacturing. Unless you address that issue at home, exports is only a byproduct. You cannot develop a defense industry based on exports.
You want a quick response to that?
So while we wait for this to happen, the acquisition process in Ministry of Defense has been a bugbear all the way from Lakshman Joshi till now. In 2002, I had done some work with him. So from then to now. So while we wait for it, if there is an opportunity to use the capacity that we are building to provide arms, what is China doing? What is Turkey doing? What is India doing? What was Iran doing till recently? It was selling to the Europeans.
I have two more guests joining us, and we've got about 10 odd minutes before the finance minister comes to Parliament. Punita Sinha joins us. She's an independent director on several companies, global investor for years. Thank you very much, Punita, for joining us. Also joining us is R. Mukundan, President Designate CI, Managing Director, CEO, Tata Chemicals. I want to put to you both my bugbear, which is the weak private investment despite years of policy push, Mr. Mukundan. Since 2019, we've had sharp corporate tax cuts, record capex on roads and ports, PLI subsidies, higher IT exemptions, GST cuts, yet private corporate investment is still below 2019 levels. What more do you expect the FM to do to boost private investment?
Thank you. Actually, I came only prepared for one issue, which I think we will all need to address. which is the private sector investment. I think you rightly pointed out, government has done a lot of heavy lifting. And this point about private sector investment lagging, I think was okay till about 2 years ago. But last 2 years, actually, it has caught up. As the capacity utilization of units have increased to about 75 to 80 odd %, the capex has started to kick in. I can give you some data which we have got from the latest capex pulse, which we got from our members, and we have tabulated them project by project. Year 26, 17,000 private sector projects are going to be coming on stream worth 9 lakh crores. 27, we're going to have 900 private sector projects coming on stream of 7 lakh crores. 11 large projects account for rupees 475,000 crores, and each one of these projects is 20,000 crore or more, largely in renewable energy, in electronics, in steel, in chemicals. And really 26, 27, if you add 2,600 private sector projects are coming on stream of 16 lakh crore, which is some of the first two figures I said. So there's been about 30% growth in capex. 92% of all new capex which is coming on stream, approximately of 10 lakh crore, is actually from private sector now. So really, I think private sector has started to come in. What we need to do is to do two things which are the next step of changes which we need to bring. One is to continue to focus on factor cost, which is making sure the power cost and the logistic cost remains the focus. I think these are two big elements. And in the power sector, I think one of the key things we are saying is to make sure our discoms are made more viable. Privatization is a big issue there. I think we need to address that big issue. Having said that, I think the second piece is about building forward from where we are. We have had a great success, for example, in electronics, and I think the PLI scheme has been a big success. But the next step in electronics is going to be building an entire component base. Globally, when you look at this component base, they come within 10 square kilometer of each other from the main assembly unit. So we need large-scale parks and a very targeted component level, let's say, a PLI sort of a scheme to keep the momentum up and actually deepen the exports. When I say deepen the exports, the final product export number will be...
Yeah, Shankar, you had a question. Go ahead.
Hi, Mukundan. Just a quick question. I can see that these projects are coming on stream, which means that these investments have happened in the past, whatever. But I like the point that you made about components in automobile, components in electronics. The components in electronics has to come through only when we sort of invest in technology, R&D, right? What is our percentage of private sector investment in technology?
Yeah. So I think you raise a very different point, which is about R&D and technology investment. I think private sector certainly needs to boost that up. I think that's also been our focus. I think this RDIF fund which government has created, which is getting rolled out this year, I think will give a big boost. I think I'm pretty sure that many companies will take benefit of that. These are long-term funds being given on a 50-year basis with no interest, and companies can use that to sort of address the areas where they may not have very clear market potential assessed at the point of investment. Having said that, I think the key point on components is when you roll out the electronic component, initially I think it will be either a form of joint venture or the component manufacturers coming to India, exactly the way it happened in the automotive sector. When Suzuki came to India, they brought in their entire network of component suppliers and they all invested in and around in Gurgaon. And I think we got to think about how do we make this ecosystem build and how do we reach out. Of course, the big companies which are main buyers and main producers of the assembled units will be the first ones to come in. But then we've got to create an environment where the demand grows to a level where components come in. So I think it's a build forward. I think we've taken the first step. We need to go to the next step.
Okay, Punita, do you believe that while we've looked at private investment, the other concern is FDI? It's slowed down. And again, one reason which is given, and also the economic survey refers to it, is the geopolitical environment in which we live. It's also that there are other countries that are perhaps seen as better options today for American investors in particular. What do you believe needs to be done to give India, just as private investment needs to has been given various benefits, what can be done to get FDI back on the road? We've also seen currency volatility. There are lots of issues that perhaps make this a far more difficult environment for a finance minister to work in.
Yeah, so there are a number of reasons FDI has been weak. Of course, India's nominal GDP growth, as you know, is slower than what it has been, and the earnings growth of companies is also slower than what it used to be. So and the valuations have been high. So investors are obviously factoring that in and deciding which countries to invest. But more importantly, I think the view is that India has lagged on innovation, R&D, and particularly with this AI, the growth of AI, India isn't kept pace with US, China, and other countries. And we don't have a pathway to train our workforce appropriately to keep up with the new age technologies and to reskill them. But I think currency has played a very important role. When you talk to investors, they also feel that whatever money they brought into India, and it is, whether institutional investors, strategic investors, either they take a very, very long-term view and then the growth catches up. But in the medium term, currency has eaten a lot of their returns. So I think some kind of currency stability is very important because, 5-6% or more getting eroded immediately that you bring in the money is also a concern for companies, and that impacts their earnings.
I just want to quickly, Mr. Mukundan, before we switch to Parliament, just understand. Okay, he's left us. You see, it's the China factor. AI was mentioned. And AI, in Davos, for example, apart from Donald Trump, the big disruptor of our times is AI. It's changed. And the fact is, everyone you speak to say America and China are engaged now in an AI race. And India needs to start playing catch up. India is attempting to do so. We are going to have a big AI summit later this month. But the sense is, are we ready to even match up to what China is doing at the moment? And that's where investors perhaps are looking at other markets, possibly smaller countries as well as Vietnam, which simply roll out the red carpet. In India at the moment, there are still restrictions in various fields.
We have no role in the foundational story, really, because it's very high capital. It has to have very high tech thing. We are doing 30 and 300 nano chips, whereas NVIDIA is into 3 chips and all. So, let's forget. What is India's opportunity is the enormous quantity of data that we produce, the enormous domestic market scale. The AI story has moved from the producers of chips and stuff and the chatbots to who leverages these things in finance in other places, which is where the GCC story comes in. The Indian GCCs set up in India are actually using some of the stuff. So JP Morgan has 60,000 people in India in their GCCs. So that is being used. What India needs to do is to line up an agenda in agriculture. We want these problems to be solved. In governance, these are the problems we want to solve. In primary preventive healthcare, these are the problems. And then ask how will you integrate it. There's no point in having a whole Jambori circus tent and saying, oh, we are having AI summit. Oh, then, we are doing this. Hum log chip bana rahe hain. What is the outcome?
Okay. I've got just 2 minutes to 30 seconds.
No, what I want to say is that, private sector capex will only come in if there is incentive and returns for them. Otherwise, they can't just keep investing. So the government needs to provide the initial capex so that the conditions are set in place for then the private sector to invest in a profitable way.
But to be fair, this government has made efforts in that direction when it comes to capex. I just want to bring in at this moment Firoz Khambata, Chairman, CII Task Force on Affirmative Action, Group Chairman, Rasna Private Limited. Firoz, if you had 30 seconds, because the Finance Minister will be entering Parliament anytime now. One thing, your wish list, your top #1 wish list today.
Bring the trust back. I think one thing is clear. All the environment is there for big ticket investment. We need to bring the trust between the investor and the government. And when I say investor, Indian investor also and foreign investor also. When you tell anybody, welcome, we have the red carpet, but when you give him 1,000 papers to sign, declarations, bank guarantees, this, that, he gets afraid. When he doesn't know how to wade through the tax, what I call the jungle, he gets afraid. And that doesn't help in getting big ticket investment. We need big ticket money to come, especially in manufacturing.
It takes a Parsi to tell truth to power. I'm glad to see someone from CII telling truth to power. It takes a Parsi to tell truth to power. That you got to get rid of all this paperwork.
No,
You got 30 more seconds.
So I honestly believe that this is something which I expect from the government. So, and for example, I hit the taxation task force in CII and look at so many taxes are there. We need to rationalize them, the custom duties. So many disputes are there. We need a ADR, a alternate tax dispute resolution, a DRC, a mediation, a settlement, amnesty schemes. These type of things will help people to concentrate on business. Entrepreneurs want to concentrate on business. They don't want to wade through all this. So I expect this to definitely happen.
Firoz, you made an important point about the custom reforms. The sense is, and the indication that has come from the government is that that's going to be part of Part B of this budget. And for the first time in 75 years, that part is going to be read today. And that's longer than the main budget.
Yes, and if you ask me the GST reforms, GST reforms actually has paved the way for this, because if you have lesser tax slabs, and for customs in 10 seconds I can tell you, why have, for finished goods, how can it be lower than the inputs? The inputs, that means the raw materials should be zero, intermediate should be at a lesser tax.
Okay, Mr. Khambhata, we've got to cut you off because we have Mr. Om Birla, the Speaker in the House, the Lok Sabha convening on a Sunday. This is what, the second time in the history of this country. I was told somewhere in the late 1940s or 50s, there was a budget on a Sunday. We can check that, whether this is the second or first, but either way, it's certainly first in recent times.
First Sunday ever.
Okay, I'll reach.
Item number 1.
Sir, with your permission, I rise to lay on the table a copy each of the following papers, Hindi and English versions, under Article 281 of the Constitution, Report for 2026 to 2031, Volume 1, Main Report of the 16th Finance Commission. 2. Report for 2026-2031, Volume 2, Annexures of the 16th Finance Commission. Number 3. Explanatory memorandum as to the action taken on the recommendations contained in the above report.
Item number 2, माननीय वित्त मंत्री निर्मला सीतारमण जी.
Honorable Speaker, sir, on the sacred occasion of Magh Purnima and the birth anniversary of Guru Ravidas, I present the budget for the year 2026-2027. Since we assumed office 12 years ago, India's economic trajectory has been marked by stability, fiscal discipline, sustained growth, and moderate inflation. This is the result of conscious choices we have made, even in times heightened uncertainty and disruption. Our government, led by Honorable Prime Minister Modi, has decisively and consistently chosen action over ambivalence, reform over rhetoric, and people over populism. We have pursued far-reaching structural reforms, fiscal prudence and monetary stability, whilst maintaining a strong thrust on public investment. Keeping Atmanirbharta as a lodestar, we have built domestic manufacturing capacity, energy security, and reduced critical import dependencies. Simultaneously, we have ensured that citizens benefit from every action of the government, undertaking reforms to support employment generation, agricultural productivity, household purchasing power, and universal services to people. These measures have delivered a high growth rate of around 7% and helped us make substantial strides in poverty reduction and improvement in the lives of our people. Today, we face an external environment in which trade and multilateralism are imperiled and access to resources and supply chains are disrupted. New technologies are transforming production systems, while sharply increasing demands on water, energy, and critical minerals. India will continue to take confident steps towards Vikasit Bharat, balancing ambition with inclusion. As a growing economy with expanding trade and capital needs, India must also remain deeply integrated with global markets, exporting more and attracting stable long-term investment. As I begin Part A, I want to express my gratitude to the people for standing firmly with us as we forge our way together towards becoming one of the largest economies of the world. Our aim is to transform aspiration into achievement and potential into performance as we ensure that the dividends of growth reach every farmer, the scheduled caste, the scheduled tribes, the nomads, the youth, the poor, and the women. In Vikasit Bharat Young Leaders Dialogue 2026, several innovative ideas were shared with our Prime Minister, which have inspired many of the proposals, making this a unique Yuva Shakti-driven budget. Our government's sankalp is to focus on our poor, underprivileged, and the disadvantaged. To deliver on this sankalp, and given that this is the first budget prepared in Kartavya Bhavan, we are inspired by three Kartavya. Our first Kartavya is to accelerate and sustain economic growth by enhancing productivity and competitiveness and building resilience to volatile global dynamics. Our second Kartavya is to fulfill aspirations of our people and build their capacity, making them strong partners in India's path to prosperity. Our third Kartavya, aligned with our vision of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, is to ensure that every family, community, region, and sector has access to resources, amenities, and opportunities for meaningful participation. This threefold approach requires a supportive ecosystem. The first requirement is to sustain the momentum of structural reforms, continuous, adaptive, and forward-looking. Second, a robust and resilient financial sector is central to mobilizing savings, allocating capital efficiently, and managing risks. Third, cutting-edge technologies, including AI applications, can serve us as force multipliers for better governance. Reform Express. Our government has undertaken comprehensive reforms towards creating employment, boosting productivity, and accelerating growth. After the Prime Minister's